Puana ke aloha no na kamali'i, na pua kamale'i na ke kupuna. Puana ke aloha no na kamali'i. Puana ke aloha no na kamali'i, na pua kamale'i na ke kupuna. He aloha no na pua kamalei. Aloha kakahi akaka o Hauʻoli Akaka ko'u inoa. My name is Hauʻoli Akaka, and I'm joining you all here from the beautiful fertile lands of Kaneohe, Koʻolaupoko Oahu. And I was invited by my darling friend, who will be one of your co-MCs and moderator, dear Ekela Kaniaupio-Crozier. And she has invited me to begin this day with this mele that was inspired and composed by a man named Randy Kamuela Fong, who is my boss with the Kamehameha schools. He is a former teacher of Hawaiian culture, mele, hula, and today the executive Hawaiian cultural officer of the Kamehameha schools. And this mele was composed maybe well over 40 years ago. And it was part of a campaign back then that was called No Hope in Dope. Perhaps some of you will remember that. But the words to this mele that was just shared in the vehena, your opening today, is profound and relevant and pertinent to your theme today and all the good work that you do for our community. So as we examine the words that you see on screen, the chant is entitled Napua Kamalei, for the beautiful descendants and the precious blossoms, our children. Auhea na kamali'i o ke ao napua kamalei na ke kupuna. His word says, where are the children of this world, the precious descendants of our ancestors? He puna vai ola e pipi'i nei me ka vai hoʻoma'ema'e ka hewa. And they are like springs of bubbling, vibrant waters of life that cleanse all the transgressions. Mai hele ma ke ala po ele ele, huli pono I ke ala malama lama. Travel not along the dark paths, the words say, and seek that enlightenment in the path of light. And here's the verse, the poku, that leads to your theme. Malama pono ke kahi ke kahi. A ulu mehe koa I ka wau kele. May you take care of one another and grow to be strong like our koa trees in the forest. Pua na ke aloha no na kamali'i, na pua kamalei na ke kupuna. And our love resounds for the children, the precious descendants of our ancestors. He aloha no na pua kamalei, a loving tribute for our precious descendants. Na ke kua e ho'opomaikai, may this be a blessed day, with much learning, sharing, and caring for one another. Malama pono ke kahi ke kahi. Aloha nui kākou. Mahalo for this opportunity to join you this morning.
Mahalo nui Hauʻoli. That was so beautiful. Yeah, pai lima. Even if we can't hear, that's okay. We can still enjoy it. I just felt so blessed when I was sharing with Hauʻoli that if he could kokoa by sharing an oli, you know, I'm not the best oli or the best chanter, so I had to go get the professional, and he agreed. And as soon as I told him the theme, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have the perfect one." And I thought so too. So we're sharing this later, the slide, so you can take a look at it, and it'll be on the recording. Hopefully, we use it in, you know, the spaces that it needs to be used. So mahalo again, Hauʻoli Akaka. Aloha mai kākou o Ekela Kaniaupio-Crozier. Hana wau ma ke kula o Kamehameha, noho au Maui Maui no o ahu mai au. So you heard my name. I actually work at Kamehameha schools as a Hawaiian culture-based education coordinator for our summer and extended programs. And I live here in Maui. I actually come from Halawa Haiso, Ahu. And I feel so blessed again to be able to join all of you and share in opening this conference. You know, when we look at the mana'o, well, the theme, the kumuhana of this conference, A Journey to Malama Pono, I wanted to kind of pick apart the words of Malama Pono, but I also wanted us to remember that it's a journey. And for some of us, this is just a part of the journey. For some of us, we are just starting the journey. But in any event, we are, when we take a journey, when we take a trip, whenever we go somewhere, we have to ho'omakoko. We have to prepare ourselves. And we can't just prepare ourselves physically, like making sure we got all the food and all the things that we need to take this trip. But we also have to prepare our na'o. Yeah, we have to prepare our insides, our guts, our heart, and our uhane, our spirit, to make sure that we have the fortitude to be able to make it to the destination. And this kind of journey, you know, oftentimes we don't always reach the destination. And so it really is about the journey. And if we're prepared, we can make it through the most difficult times. So I wanted to share with you a couple of olelo no'eo. And olelo no'eo for us are wise things. And I'm sure many of you have heard various olelo no'eo over time. And but these happen to be about preparing yourself, being prepared. And I thought it was, so I chose two. There were so many good ones. I was like really having a hard time deciding which ones to use today. But these were the two that I chose. So give me a chance to share my screen and I'll get us over there. So this first olelo no'eo, if you look in the book, they're numbered. And so I provided you with the numbers so that in case you have this book or you get the book Olelo No'eo by Mary Kavenapuku'i, you can look it up by the number. So this one is 1184. It says, Ika moana no kai'a, liu liu ia na pono lawai'a. While the fish are still in the sea, get your gear ready. And the second olelo no'eo that I chose is 1152. Iha aheo no kalawai'a, ikalako ika upena. The fisherman may well be prepared when supplied with nets. And I'm sorry, not prepared, proud. The fisherman may well be proud when supplied with nets. Keywords in there is ha'aheo for proud and lawai'a for fishermen. So what do these, why is it that they used these metaphors for us to understand how important it is to prepare ourselves? So these are mana'o about getting the physical preparations going. But again, when we look at it, the fish are still in the sea. Get your gear ready. The mana'o is not for us to get to where we are and then prepare ourselves. We have to be totally prepared before we jump on the va'a, before we jump on the canoe. We have to have all of our things together. And when we get out there and we get a good catch, it's because we have prepared properly. So today really is about preparing ourselves in that way, to get our hearts in the right place, to get our minds in the right place, to be able to make, to be able to discern how we can use the information that we're going to hear today. And when I was thinking over all of the sessions, I was like, oh my gosh, if you could just be in all of them, that would be great, right? But wherever you land today, it's a journey to start making yourselves makoko to malama pono. And so here we see this part. I just wanted to take a look at pono, because this is the third definition that you see if you look up the word pono in the Hawaiian English Dictionary. And it talks about pono, and this may be a totally different mana'o that you've never heard before, but pono refers to property. resources, assets, fortune, belongings, equipment, household goods, furniture, gear of any kind, possessions, accessories, necessities. So I want to go back here. If you look in this first Olelo No'eo, it says, Liu liu ia na pono la vai'a. What are the pono la vai'a? The things that you need to be a fisherman, okay? So I wanted to highlight this mana'o of pono because what are the pono that you need? What are the resources, the assets, the gear of any kind, the possessions that you need to do the work that you're called to do? And when you can figure that out, then you're going to malama that. You're going to malama that pono. So you're going to see two definitions of pono today. That first one that I just showed you of being resources, assets, equipment that you need. And then pono, the next definition coming up after this, malama. But malama, take a look at all of the mana'o of malama, to take care of, attend, care for, preserve, protect, beware, save, maintain, to keep or observe as a taboo, to conduct as a service, to serve, honor as God, care, preservation, support, fidelity, loyalty, custodian, caretaker, keeper. All of that is malama. And you'll see that malama is not only an action, but it can also be a noun. It can be a person, the one who does the taking care of, right? So the next definition I wanted to look at was pono. And this is probably the definition that most of us are familiar with. Pono meaning goodness, uprightness, morality, moral qualities, correct or proper procedure, excellence, well-being, prosperity, welfare. So when we put those two words together, ma'alama, pono, right? We understand that we have this kuleana. We're called to care, attend, care for, preserve, protect, all of those words in this way, in being good and being upright and being moral, taking care that we're doing it correctly, that it's done with excellence. And so today, as we take this journey to Malama Pono, and that might seem like, oh my gosh, this is redundant. We're going over and over the words Malama Pono. I hope that we are able to really have that mana'o sink in, because we used the mana'o of sustaining justice, right? So take time to think about it as you sit in different sessions. How does this help you on your journey to Malama Pono, to sustain justice? So I hope I've brought some light to the mana'o of our theme today, and that you enjoyed this opening. I think it set us up, it set our hearts in the right place, and we're ready to go forward and listen to our keynote, which is just going to zero in on why we're all here today. So mahalo nui for the opportunity to share. Ahui hokako, aloha.
Mahalo nui loa to you, and thank you so much for that inspirational morning tribute that we all got to be a part of. My name is Bobby Jo Moniz-Tadeo, and I am the Hoʻoikaika Partner Leadership Hui, as well as a co-chair for our Training and Professional Development Committee. And I thank you all for being here today. Without further ado, I would like to introduce, back by popular demand, yes, we have our Emcees for today, Mr. Paul Tonnessen and Miss Michele Navarro. Welcome, welcome. And I'm going to hand it over to both of you because you guys will take it over for the rest of the time.
Aloha all. Mahalo, Kumu Ekela. Very grand opening for all of us. And I am going to turn this over to Michele.
Mahalo nui, Kumu Ekela, and Kumu Hauʻoli. Mahalo to you both. Many of you know Kumu Ekela, and many of us know Kumu Hauʻoli as well. However, Kumu Ekela Kaniaupio-Crozier is a Hawaiian cultural-based coordinator at Halau o Kapika o Hanai Mālama at Kamehameha Schools, Maui. Although she's taught Hawaiian language to preschoolers and to kupuna for over 40 years, most of her instruction has been at the post-secondary level of at the University of Hawaii system. Her fluency in Olelo Hawaii has also provided several opportunities to pioneer various Hawaiian language community programs, including the public television distance learning Hawaiian language program, Kula and the Duolingo Hawaiian language app. In 2020, Kumu Ekela partnered with Anu Getchen to provide classes where participants learn how their own stories relate to Ike Hawaii, providing Hawaiian culture-based services and instruction, Hawaiian keiki and ohana. Kumu Ekela has committed her life's work to changing the landscape and soundscape of Hawaii by renormalizing the language and knowledge of our kupuna. I'd like to now introduce our keynote speaker, who's my tita, my friend, my sister, Noelani Ahia. Noelani Ahia is a healer and activist who works to protect what we love, Aina, Kai, Vai, Iwi, and each other. Trained in traditional East Asian medicine, she has been delivering acupuncture and herbal medicine to the Maui community for 15 years. In 2017, she co-founded the Moʻomeheu Healers Hui with Dr. Kalama in 2019 and spent 8 months on Mauna Kea tending to our La Hui. Genealogically tied to Lahaina Maui, she founded the Maui Medic Healers Hui after the devastating 2023 fires. Building communities of care is central to how she walks in this world, always guided by ancestors and the whispers of ancient murmur. Everyone, please allow me to introduce Noelani Ahia.
Aloha mai kākou, mahalo nui Tita Michele and Kumu Ekela, and mahalo nui to Hoʻoikaika Partnership for the privilege and honor of being here today to share with you folks. I'm very humble to be here. I think this is probably my first keynote speech, so please offer me grace as we go through this. Before I share my slide presentation, I just wanted to acknowledge that this has been a very difficult year for most of us, for all of us, I would say, but especially those of us on Maui. We have been to the extremes of our emotions and had our hearts stretched just about as wide as they can be. And we've had very sore na'aus, but we have also seen the incredible strength, resiliency, aloha, and care for one another this year. And so as we look at this topic, a journey to Mālama Pono and sustaining justice and harmony, I was thinking about and reflecting on my own journey. And I felt like probably the best way for me to share with you is to tell my story. And some of the things in this presentation are rather personal, and I don't normally share on large platforms, but I feel like we're in a time in history where part of the medicine that we need is truth-telling and sharing our stories with one another, because when we share our stories, the shame dissipates and the trauma can start to be acknowledged collectively. Because some of the things that I share, I'm sure many of you have similar experiences, whether you're Kanaka Maoli or Filipino or migrant to Hawaii or Micronesian or Samoan or Tongan or English, Irish, French, Scottish, like my mother is. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen and we're gonna holomua on this journey. So healing justice and Mālama Pono. my journey in this va of my life, in this time period, in this arc of how I walk in the world, starts with me being called home to Hawaii. So I was raised in the diaspora, which means I wasn't raised in my homeland of Hawaii. I was born and raised in California. My parents are Kathy and Clement Ahia, and my brother Derek Ahia, and my sister Noelani Ahia. When we were little, her English name is Cameron and my English name is Jennifer. So we were Cammy and Jenny growing up. And it wasn't until we came home that when we started to reclaim our identity, that we took on our Hawaiian middle names, which were given to us by our mother. And I want to acknowledge that because my father, who is Kanaka Maoli, his generation was not allowed to have Olelo Hawaii, and naming was not something that my family did at that point in time. So I grew up in California. Actually, let me step back a second because we're going to move on with the slide. So the basic outline of this journey is being called home, navigating my identity, then witnessing oppression and injustice, and then having to confront my own intergenerational and historical trauma. So I grew up in California. I had a relatively privileged life relative to how my family in Hawaii grew up. So I acknowledge that I did not have to share in some of the day-to-day traumas that my family in Hawaii had. I had a two-parent home. I went to private school when I was a child, and I had food and a home and all of these things that are privileges, really. In 1997, I moved to New York City to dance professionally. And I lived in New York for 11 years. On the screen is a silly photo of my headshot from when I was a dancer in New York. And, you know, I was relatively carefree, but I also reflect that I had this deep sense of shame, and I didn't know where it came from. I didn't understand it, but it was something that I had an awareness of. So I moved home. I was called home in the early 2000s when I was going to acupuncture school, and I started to spend time upstate New York with a woman who became my Hanai mom. She did an adoption ceremony for me, and she was First Nations. And the first time she put me in a sweat lodge ceremony, my ancestors from Hawaii came through me. They came through me, and they let out a very loud wail, a very loud ue. And I was aware that those were not my tears. They just needed a vessel to release them. And ue in Hawaiian culture crying is a very important cultural practice that has been somewhat forgotten with colonization. And people have been told to pa'akavaha, or keep their mouth quiet, and be strong. But my ancestors knew that releasing this ue was part of discharging trauma. And so this happened to me in this sweat lodge. And then I heard my ancestors tell me that I needed to move home. So right after graduate school, after I got my degree in Chinese medicine, I moved back to Hawaii. That was 2008. I moved home. And then I had this whole process I like to call navigating identity. And that was a part of figuring out who I was. And sorry, a lot of my photos I wasn't able to access, so I grabbed from what I had. But on one side of the screen, you'll see these are huli for kalo. This was me trying to plant kalo without really knowing what I was doing, without fully being prepared. And let's just say that it didn't work. But there was a part of me that was trying so hard to be Hawaiian enough and to figure out what that was and understand what that meant and restore some of that identity. The other picture is a kupuna, Sam Ka'ai. I met him just a few years into moving home, and he's been a big part of my journey in understanding identity. And I put this picture up of him because while he's quite a bit older than me, he's 86 now. In his generation, he was a part of that Hawaiian Renaissance, and he was a part of that conversation around figuring out who our ancestors were, what they did, what was their industry, what was their brilliance, what was their light? Where were the places that they shined and had so many amazing accomplishments to survive on these islands for thousands of years? So kupuna sam ka'ai is an important part of my journey and an important part of how I received Ike about what it means to be Hawaiian. So after I moved home, I started my acupuncture practice, and I was seeing patients regularly, and I had a lot of Kanaka Maoli patients. And after a period of time, I started to understand and notice how sick my patients were. And in school, we were taught to teach about diet and exercise and, all of these sorts of things to personally care for yourself, which are important. But I started to realize and make the connections between the systemic inequality and the injustice that was happening and the health outcomes of Kanaka Maoli and other oppressed people in Hawaii. And, it didn't take me long to sort of map out in my brain and draw all the lines and crossings and have this understanding that systemic inequality creates individual dysregulation in the nervous system and inflammation in the body, and thus illness, and it's passed down intergenerationally. So I started becoming more active in the community and standing up for water rights, protecting Hawaiian burials. I found out that the Hai Hawaii was actually designed by one of my ancestors, my 6-time great-grandfather. All of this information was hidden to me when I was growing up. Nobody in my family knew anything about this. But coming home, my ancestors started to reveal to me some of the truths of our history. So part of that included navigating this intergenerational and historical trauma. So I'm sharing these particular photos. These were taken recently last April. The picture on the side with the 4 people is my mother. On the far side, a friend, my father with the lei on, and then my sister, and then that's me and my dad in the other photo. And this particular day was a project that my sister, who's an amazing writer and researcher, she and her partner have been researching the insane asylums in Hawaii. And there's a lot of historical records that were just recently released in the last few years, and they've been combing through them and finding out some of the not so healthy things that happened there, and some of the experimentation, like electroshock therapy and insulin therapy for people who didn't need it, to put them into shock. Basically, it was an induced shock treatment. These sorts of things were happening, and this was also another way that Kanaka Maoli were dispossessed from the land, because they were given they were made wards of the state, so they could no longer own land, and the state could take it back. And my sister started this research because we found out a few years ago that my grandfather was at this insane asylum in Kaneohe, which is now the site of the community college in Kaneohe. So my sister did this thing called a detour, and they brought the community, and my dad was one of the few genealogical descendants of somebody who had been in that hospital that was there that day. And I came to realize that a lot of the work that I do is really about navigating my father's pain, my father's shame, my father's inability to be Hawaiian because he wasn't allowed, like so many people in our community in that generation, and really fighting to make things better and different for myself and for the next generation. And over the years, doing both healing work and justice work, I've come to understand that healing works multidimensionally. So when we heal, it heals backwards to our ancestors, and it heals forward to the next generations. And when we heal, we also heal the land. We heal the aina. I'm sure most of you have heard the saying about Kanaka being aina and aina being Kanaka, because we're deeply, deeply interconnected. In this work, in this justice work that I've done, one of the most significant things for me was doing the work around protecting iwi kupuna. And iwi kupuna are one of our most precious and valued resources, really, are one of our most important mea. And when the iwi kupuna are put back into the ground, it's like planting. Iwi kupuna are the bones of our ancestors. So they get planted back into the aina, and they become this nourishment for our people for generations. They become collective mana that we can draw upon. And when they're disturbed, they fracture that relationship between kanaka and aina. And I very clearly see this connection between the way Hawaiian burials are treated and the way Hawaiian people are treated, the way our Hawaiian unsheltered community is treated, the way that our people have been systemically moved aside to make room for something else that fits the settlers' idea of what Hawaii should be. And I got so involved in this process of protecting burials. I ended up in multiple lawsuits, including suing the county and the state and a developer. But we were also able to save 500 acres in Waiale and the Central Maui sand dunes through advocacy and through, working with scientists to understand archaeology and building relationships with people in the seats, in the decision-making seats, so that we could help folks understand and really navigate how to best take care of our burials. And I have to say, the changes in the way burials are discussed on Maui and the way that they are given more respect now is definitely a success and a win for us. We have a county archaeologist in our county. It's the first time ever. And that came from my own connection, listening to my ancestors, watching the signs of the Ho'ailona, tuning into my own na'au and my own pu'uwai, processing through the trauma, processing the intergenerational trauma, and then being able to feel strong enough to have a voice to speak out. I didn't grow up as someone who spoke out frequently, but through this process of coming home and healing my own trauma, it trained me up to be able to find my voice and use my voice to help our people. Then we have Mauna Kea. I ran for office. Lahaina. I'm gonna just skip this one a little bit. Oh yes, this was one of the sand dunes that was being mined in Central Maui sand dunes, and there are iwi kupuna on the top here that were threatened because of the sand mining. And this other photo is one of the early lawsuits that we had. Mauna Kea, I really wanted to talk about Mauna Kea because the Mauna was an opportunity for Kanaka and supporters of Kanaka and supporters of sacred spaces, supporters of our ecosystem, supporters of our water table and our aquifer to come together and stand up in the face of injustice, while at the same time building community with each other and developing skill sets for relationship repair and doing true mutual aid work where we were taking care of each other. I love this photo on the bottom, the We Are Mauna Kea photo, because there were flags put up from nations all around the world that came to visit, but we have the LGBTQ flag here with the BIPOC and transgender on the bottom to make sure that our Mahu community is represented. The Mauna was very, very difficult. I have to share that it was not all rainbows and butterflies. There was a lot of conflict and there was a lot of trauma, and a lot of the work that Mauna Medics did was navigating that and helping people process it. But one of the most profound things that I witnessed on the Mauna, we did talk story circles twice a day, every day for months. And we would have Puna come And they would share that this was the first time they had ever spoken Aloha Hawaii. This was the first time they'd ever done a chant in their life. And they would cry and they would feel embarrassed and ashamed for crying. And then another kupuna would say, yeah, me too. I used to have my mouth washed out with soap, or I was beaten. And they started sharing their stories, and I witnessed the power of them sharing their stories with each other, and them being able to take a collective deep breath and recognize they weren't the only one. Because for many of them, they thought that they were the only ones that had that experience. And they didn't realize how much they had internalized that trauma and internalized that racism. So being a Mauna was an amazing opportunity to look at what the community can do when pushed up against the line and in crisis. The people rose, and the medical tent was established, the kitchen, the university, Pu'uhuluhulu University was set up there, the protocol and language, the shopping store where you could get your things that you needed. And this hub model, I think, really helped set us up to do Lahaina, because we'd seen it before. We saw how our people rose to take care of one another. And we sort of built this template collectively, especially thanks to Moko Keawe and the people, the kupa aina of that aina, who showed up immediately with, supplies and goods and whatnot. But this became a widespread effort to take care of people during this process of standing up for our sacred space. This is just another beautiful picture of one of the pu'u on the Mauna. Just couldn't resist. Oh, and this is in our medic tent. We're having a halavai. We used to halavai morning and night, and we would, talk story about our days and process and decompress every day. We screen printed our own shirts in the beginning. This other photo I love. It's a day when the carvers, their carvings were dedicated to the Alahulu Kupuna. But the reason I love this picture is because of this outline here of this triangle. It looks just like the Kukia'i Mauna hand sign that we would all do to remind ourselves what we stand for. And so that triangle, I look at that often, and it reminds me that our kupuna show up, our kupuna from the pole, from the other side, or on the other side of the veil. Our ancestors give us signs, and signs are part of acknowledgement, part of showing when we're in alignment, when we're doing the right thing, when we're pono, and they help to guide our journey. And so I want you to think about that today. When you think about what are the signs that led you to where you are now? What are the signs that helped you understand that you were in the right place, that you were making the right decision? Okay. Oh, then I ran for office. So here's a fun one. I wasn't really planning to run for office. It's not like I'm just dying to be in a public office, but I had been asked to run, and I prayed really hard about it, whether or not this was the right use of my time and energy. And I'm going to go back and tell one other story real quick. When I was working in the sand dunes, the day that the developer was served papers that there was a lawsuit, I happened to be on site monitoring another project. And the archaeologist approached me and he said, "Hey, Noelani, did you file a lawsuit?" And I said, yeah. And he was like, okay. He was, kind of mad, and walked away. But I looked up over the sand dune, over the burial preserve in the sand dune, and there was 5 Eva birds that were circling above the burial preserve. And they don't usually fly that far inland. But there were 5 that day, and I snapped a picture of it. And I felt like that was the whole Ilona that I needed, that this was the right thing to do, to file this suit and to try this direction to get better protections for our burials. So when I was thinking about running for office, I was praying about it. And one morning I specifically asked for a sign. I said, Kupuna, please give me a sign if I am supposed to do this. And I left the place I was staying and I drove out, took a turn out onto the road, and 7 Eva birds flew right over my car. And I snapped a picture and I said, thank you, Kupuna. This is all I needed to know. Whether I win or lose, that I am supposed to put my all into this and run for office and see if working inside the system will be something that I can do to serve our community. So those signs have been a really important part of my journey. I didn't win. Probably most of you know who are on Maui. I lost by 500 votes. That's okay. My whole campaign was about bringing health and wellness to our community. And after the fires, that's exactly what I've been doing. So when people ask why I didn't run again, it's, well, I'm doing all the things that I wanted to do with Maui medics right now. And right now I'm better working outside the system. But when we're looking at systemic inequality and we're looking at the macrocosm of oppression, it's important to understand that we're simultaneously doing our own inner work, our personal work to stay in alignment. We're working in our communities, and we're looking at the systems that are creating the problems in the first place. We have to be willing to toggle between these spaces. And so sometimes, yes, sometimes we need to work for the county or the state or the federal government. That's okay, there's no shame. The thing about it is looking at how can you do harm reduction from that place? How can you use your positions and powers in those spaces to create better conditions for our lahui, for our community, for our aina, for our vai, for our kai. And so, so we're always kind of looking at this internal, external, contraction, expansion. You know, the universe works in could say opposites, but you know, we have the rising sun, the setting sun, we have the sun and the moon, we have Ku and Hina in our Hawaiian mythology, we have yin and yang in Taoist philosophy, but we also have these transitions between those spaces. And those transitions, we're going to talk a little bit about this, more about this later, but those transitions are really rich places where we can set intention and empower ourselves to listen to our na'au and do the work that needs to be done. So lastly, in this specific timeline is Lahaina. And I didn't take a lot of pictures in Lahaina because I was pretty busy, but here's some I grabbed from my role. This, of course, is people passing goods in Kahana at the Kahana boat ramp, the Honokawai hub. This is a handful of our medics. These all happen to be indigenous wahine from different places in the world. And they're all amazing. My sisters are warriors, my t-shirt says, because my sisters are warriors. Okay, so we're going to come back to that contraction expansion thing in a minute. But I had to chuckle earlier when Kumu Ekela was showing her definitions, and I thought, oh, I'm doing that too. I guess we're on the same page. For me, I have just a slightly different mana'o today from my perspective. And this is the amazing thing about Hawaiian language is there's so many different meanings. There's a lot of kauna or hidden meanings. And you can use the language in different ways, in different contexts to see the world from a different lens, right? We have that saying, "A'ohe pau ka ike ka halau ho'okahi," which means not all knowledge is taught in one school. So I'm looking at these definitions of pono, goodness, uprightness, morality. She read these already, but I'm going to jump to one on here. And these are from the Hawaiian Dictionary, the 1986 printing. But one that I had not noticed before was true condition or nature. Let's just think about that for a second. true condition or nature. And then, of course, malama, to take care of, attend to, care for, preserve, protect. So what would it look like to take care of our true nature, to protect our true nature? Do we know what is our true nature? Do we know what's our true nature versus our conditioning? Do we know what's our true nature versus what we've been taught? I'm going to suggest that our true nature was seen after the wildfires. That our true nature showed up in Lahaina in the response. That our true nature was one of collective community care. No kalahui means for the lahui. Our true nature was making sure that everyone got resourced. Our true nature was mutual aid. Our true nature was caring for one another. People who had never stepped out of their shell or their box came out after the fires to volunteer and help. People that I had never met and seen before, people from corporations, even people that I really, like people from the military that I really don't care for, they stepped up and they helped. Because in a crisis, you get to see what's really inside of people, and you get to see what's really moving them. And the mutual aid piece I wanted to focus on because I'm not suggesting that our true nature is just giving. Many of us in this room are probably overgivers, overdoers, take on too much kuleana, don't know how to say no, maybe don't have the best boundaries. At least that's me anyways. I won't speak for anyone else, but these are things that I'm learning, that I am working on, that I'm trying to manage to address burnout, is how to have good boundaries, and when is it a yes and when is a no, and that requires tuning into my na'au. But this mutual aid piece is also about receiving. It's about not having any one person or entity on top that has all the power or gets to be the hero and give all the things. It's about everyone coming together and taking care of each other. So when I need something, I know that it will be provided. And when my friends and family need something, they know that it will be provided because we all care for each other collectively. And this includes all of us, especially our most vulnerable populations, like our unsheltered community, who often gets brushed aside, regardless of their race or background. This is really an issue of classism that I think is important for all of us to reflect upon and learn more about if we don't really know what that means. Because mutual aid is about making sure that everybody gets resourced. And that's what was happening in the early days after the fire. Everyone was getting resourced. I too have an olelo no'eau. Mahalo nui kumu ekela for the ones you shared this morning. The one that I've brought here is okau aku oka ia la mai, hela kanohona oka ohana, from you and from him, so lived the family. The farmer gave to the fisherman to the farmer. This is olelo no'eau, number 2441. I love this olelo no'eau so much because it speaks to the world that I want to see. It speaks to the world we once had here in Hawaii, and probably everywhere on the planet for that matter, if you go back far enough and people find their indigeneity, where they were connected to the land and where folks lived in villages where everyone was taken care of and fed because everyone shared what they have. And for me, this is the vision of pono that I'm looking towards. My pule, my prayer for the last decade has been restoration of pono. So when I saw the title for this conference, I was like, oh, I know what that is in my body. I know what that is. It's about rebalancing the ecosystem, rebalancing our relationship with the Aina, rebalancing our relationship to each other, and being in alignment, being Pono. I like to think of Pono as in alignment, like connected to the Aina, connected to the heavens, and allowing the wisdom to move through us and to inform our choices in this world. So we are, let's see, we are going to be wrapping up and going into the sessions, but I'm going to be back this afternoon, and we're going to do a little bit of grounding work and some cleansing and clearing work, and we're going to talk a little bit about our own protective measures for doing this kind of work and how we can take care of ourselves and take care of each other. So we can do the microcosm and the macrocosm, the contraction and the expansion. And so in the afternoon, if you are able to, I know some of you are working in offices, but if any of you are at home, if you're able to bring a little bit of pa'akai, which is Hawaiian salt, some vai, can be any kind vai, can be tap water. You don't have to go up iao and you know, do a oli and gather anything like that. This is not a traditional Hawaiian ceremony. We're going to be doing a very simple, this is what works and this is how you can use pa'akai. So pa'akai, a little bowl, so you can, if you have a nice bowl you'd like to use, you can. If you have a little, you can't see it on this thing. If you have just a little jar, that's fine. Pa'akai, even if you just have like the, you know, the kind from Longs, that's fine. Or if you have like the nice Kauai Hanapepe salt, that's great too. Any kind, because you can practice. And if you don't have any pa'akai, just bring some water in a cup and we'll just practice, okay? Hikino? So I will see you folks this afternoon. Mahalo nui for taking this journey with me and allowing me to be vulnerable and share my stories. And I just appreciate being here, and I'm so humbled and so grateful to you folks at Hoʻoikaika and to our lahui for all the amazing work that this community is doing to care for each other. Aloha.
Mahalo nui, Noelani. Everyone, if we can all pa'i lima. So awesome. Again, mahalo nui, Noelani, for your time. Just wanted to share that part of the journey to Malama Pono is maintaining a strong hui dedicated to preventing child abuse and strengthening ohana. We couldn't do that, any of it, much of it, without the support of many generous funders. We want to take a few moments to recognize those who support the annual conference, who include Paul Tonnessen here. He's the executive director of the Friends of the Children's Justice Center of Maui, and they are an IMUA level sponsor. The Friends of the Children's Justice Center of Maui is a private nonprofit corporation founded in 1989 by a nonpartisan group of community and business leaders concerned with the social welfare of children and families who have been traumatized by abuse and severe neglect.
Also extend our mahalos to Don Mahi, program officer representing Consuelo Foundation as an Ikaika level sponsor. Grisello Zobel Alter Foundation inspires hope and healing for children, women, and families through transformation, resilience building programs, and partnerships.
Kale Kailihiva, Director of Community Engagement at Kamehameha Schools, Kaiaulu, Ikaika level sponsor. KS Kaiaulu brings together Kamehameha Schools scholarships, online learning resources, and they partner programs. Kaiaulu brings together Kamehameha Schools scholarships, online learning resources, in-person community resource centers, and the partner programs KS supports in the community all in one place. Through these offerings, Kamehameha Schools Kaiaulu aims to grow Oiwi leaders. Oiwi leaders are people who use their knowledge, skill, and passion to strengthen Hawaii, its people, and our global community.
We also do mahalo to the Hoʻoikaika partners on the conference planning committee who worked behind the scenes to organize this day. Bobby Jo Moniz Tadeo, Moore Family Services, she's the co-chair. Adele Bagi O Lorena, she is with Maui Family Support Services, also a co-chair. Tina Kiaba Krell with CAM HD. Shana Orta, Child and Family Services. Connie Mikov and Kayla Kutaka from Parents and Children Together. Heidi Tagoshi, Maui District Health Office. Heidi Allen Castry, she is with Maui Family Support Services, Hoʻoikaika Partnership Navigator. Mark Augustine and Shelley Brown with Maui Family Support Services, and Deb Maros, Converge Counseling, Consulting, Research, and Training, and Hoʻoikaika Partnership Coordinator. Also, just want to cover the reason why we're here today. 2007, four entities got together, and I just want to share very quickly. Randy Achito just passed. He was one of them. Maui Family Support Services, Friends of the Children's Justice Center, Department of Health, and Wailuku Neighborhood Place, Venus Rossetti Medeiros, and Randy Achito and Jenny Bissell, they all got together and they formed this partnership, four of them. And I remember when I took over about 13 years ago, there was about 7 or 8 of us at a table. And we kept saying, who needs to be at the table? And that's the reason we're here today. We keep bringing people in to help us strengthen the families. The protective factors came into play through all this. And you know, the mission is to strengthen and expand the systems of support in Maui County by building a strong prevention and provider network that supports collaboration. Hoʻoikaika is here due to collaboration, due to 4 entities getting together. As I sit here with Michele, you know, long before COVID put a spotlight on the mental health services, through Hoʻoikaika Partnership, I met Michele years ago. Through that, we have been combating the mental health needs of our foster youth for years and meeting them long before they put the spotlight on it. That's what's important about it. You know, Hoʻoikaika, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to turn this over to Adele.
Mahalo, Paul. Aloha kako. Thank you so much for allowing me to share today. And I am so happy to see so many familiar faces. It is my honor to present to you the leadership hui of Hoʻoikaika Partnership. The current 10 core and supporting partners of the leadership hui provide the vision, strategic direction, leadership, and in-kind and financial support that is essential to sustaining a thriving coalition. We meet every month, whether there's funding or not. These people and organizations are dedicated to the work of the partnership. Some names have been mentioned already, but I just want to reintroduce them again. The hui includes Ani Reinecke from Child Welfare Services, Bobby Jo Moniz Tadeo from Imua Family Services, Connie Mikov from Parents and Children Together, Cynthia Damo from the Department of Health, Family Health Services Division, Kalei Kailihiva from Kamehameha Schools Kaia'olo, Kelly Sim from Casey Family Programs, Paul Tonnessen from Friends of the Children's Justice Center of Maui, Shana Orda from Children and Family Service, Tina Kiabu-Crowell from Maui Family Guidance Center, Department of Health, and yours truly, the co-chair for the Committee for Professional and Training from Maui Family Support Services. Now, we want to show you a video highlighting our work in 2024. And if you are not a member of Hoʻoikaika yet, I would really encourage you to join. We provide a lot of support for the member providers as well as individuals. Heidi and Mark?
Hoʻoikaika Partnership has been integral in supporting service providers, so they are able to continue to support the needs of the families in our community during this difficult time.
As individuals, we all go through our own trauma, whether it is dealing with the COVID pandemic that had occurred years ago, the tragedy of the Maui wildfires, or someone's own personal trauma. The Hoʻoikaika Partnership has provided strategies, support, and resources to agencies and other community professionals to work together to get through those hardships. And I'm grateful that I am a member of the Hoʻoikaika Partnership.
This past year, Hoʻoikaika Partnership has been very helpful in responding to the needs of the community, especially after the wildfires. And one example that I can think of is that Hoʻoikaika Partnership has been conducting the Healing the Healers with Heidi and with Michelle, and I heard that providers are really appreciating that because they have a space where they can decompress and just take care of themselves. And so Hoʻoikaika Partnership promotes well-being of providers so that they can help families in a positive way.
Okay, aloha. My name is Heidi Allencaster, and I'm just going to go over a couple of things. So first, just kind of highlighting some of the work we've done around the protective factors and coming up with our own family-friendly language. And so for the protective factors, for knowledge of parenting and child development, we came up with parenting can be hard, but can. First, make yourself pono, which is for parental resilience. For concrete supports in times of need, we like to say no shame. social connections, e haiste, social and emotional competence of children, showing keiki aloha, and then for nurturing and attachment, malama ohana. And we created this language just to make it easier for families to understand what the protective factors are. And then in 2020, we created a book, Kalaboy's Adventure to Make Pono, He Huaka'i Ohana. And this book is just really to help families build protective factors in their households using the book, language, and literacy. And you can also go onto our website, which is hoʻoikaikapartnership.com. You can see we have ordering forms where you can order a book or request a book. We have bookmarks and lots of public education materials that you can request that you can actually give out to the families that you serve. And then we are doing a protective factor framework training for all providers. This is going to be on starting October 3rd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's a 7-week, 2-hour, so 7 weeks total. Each session is 2 hours, and it's really going over the Strengthening Families framework, and it's to really ensure optimal outcomes for children and families by implementing strategies that strengthen families, help them build protective factors, and promote individual growth. And we want to help systems to be more responsive to families and children and strengthen communities' capacities as safe and healthy environments. And this is really intended to help providers shift their mindset or their lens in the way that they view families. And so we'll drop in the chat the registration and the flyer. And it's really for any level. So from public health nurses, pediatric staff, community health workers, teachers. So it can be on our school system, our child welfare system, all the way to our direct service staff, case managers, social workers, navigators. So it's really built for any system to implement the protective factors. Okay, and then lastly, we also did a collaborative public education campaign, or it's continuing, so it's still going on, to increase talking, reading, and singing. And it's really just to help families connect and bond through just talking more, reading, and singing more with each other. And it's called Talking is Teaching, and it was a collaborative campaign with Kako for Kiki. And it's really just to end the word gap that we see in a lot of rural communities or communities like Hawaii. So thank you so much. Aloha.
Mahalo, Heidi. Wow, that video was so awesome. I do want to say though that you should get release forms when you put pictures of people up. Nah, just kidding. Just kidding.
She didn't like the photos of her. I told her you don't look good in person. What's the difference?
How's this guy? And I letting him sit next to me. But having said that, I wanted to share that we are, we meaning the partnership, was able to get CEUs for this conference from ADAD, all the certifications that come from ADAD, as well as NASW Hawaii will be providing up to 6 hours. The one thing I want to note in providing these CEs is that there's a very strict attendance, and we do have moderators in every room who will be keeping track of your attendance, because that's the only way, because of the platform, that we are able to share this conference, to be able to really keep track of the attendance for your CEs. And you will receive those CEs once you complete the evaluation and your attendance for these CEs are verified. And please allow grace for when these for when the CEs come out. I know there's always worry, when are we going to get in? And, this, that, and the other. I get it because I need them too. But we just give the partnership grace for everyone who has to do the verifications.
Is there a time frame?
Grace, 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
But we won't stretch it more than a month. But again, if there are any issues, call Paul. His number is there'll be information on that. So yes, please give grace. But we're saying 2 to 3, sometimes 4 weeks, because again, we have to go cross-reference the time and attendance for that verification.
Thank you, Michelle. And we also again have the Malama room this year. It was very beneficial last year. This is a Zoom space available for respite. If you find yourself needing to talk, feeling activated, overwhelmed, or need some quiet, just please reach out and go into the Malama room. It was very beneficial for our participants last year. The Malama room will be staffed by Jenna Taylor and Bobby Joe Oniz Tadeo of Amua Family Services. And also the main room is open all day. Come in if you need help, technical or emotional support. Bobby Joe will be monitoring those rooms. Love you, Bobby Joe. Thank you for all that.
And we're going to move into those sessions. Everyone, please enjoy your session.
Have a great conference. Appreciate
Mahalo, Michelle and Paul. See you later.
Thank you.